Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. What's shaking, rattling, and rolling in the women's featherweight division? Unbeaten up-and-comer from Spain, Jennifer Miranda, is set to return to action October 19th against Panama's own Teresa Almengor
In what is a WBA interim title fight.
And because it's a WBA interim title fight, it is of some significance, as whoever wins this fight will be in a pole position to eventually challenge for the full WBA title that Amanda Serrano still holds. Amanda Serrano, who's at 140 pounds now, en route to a Katie Taylor rematch, and it's conceivable that the WBA title might be the next title that she vacates. She's already vacated the WBC and the IBF.
This might be the next.
A trip over to the WBA's current rank standings reveals that Jennifer Miranda is already ranked at number 1. Germany's own Nina Menke is ranked at number 2, but Germany's own Nina Menke is set to be fighting for the vacant IBF title very soon. Thus, that eliminates her. Ranked at number 3 is the Dominican Republic's own Vivian Rodriguez. You want to pay attention to that.
Several slots down, Teresa Almengor of Panama, who Jennifer is going to be fighting. She's ranked at number 8.
And so the winner of Miranda versus Almengor will become WBA interim champion and be in a pole position to either fight for the full title or be elevated to full champion should Amanda Serrano vacate. Jennifer Miranda sports an unblemished record of 11 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout, only 1 recorded knockout. She's not a power puncher. She's not big on power. On the face of this fight, on the face of it, I feel like Jennifer Miranda should win a points decision. It's going down in her neck of the woods. It's going down in Madrid, Spain. Where it gets interesting is that if she wins, and she becomes WBA interim champion, after that, she may be so confronted
with Vivian,
with another unbeaten up-and-comer like herself in Vivian Rodriguez for either the vacant WBA title, the newly vacated WBA title, or in defense of the newly vacated WBA title if she is so elevated to full champion. That the look of it, it looks like Jennifer and Vivian are on a collision course.
That the next full WBA champion at featherweight could be decided between Jennifer and Vivian.
Jennifer Miranda is set to return to action next month, where Vivian was last in action last month. It's the only fight that Vivian has had this year. There's still enough time left to get her another keep busy fight, another maintenance fight before this year is out, sometime next month or November, maybe December. It would be wise for Vivian to fight at least one more time before this year is out. Nothing too risky, nothing too dicey, just the maintenance fight to keep her sharp.
Vivian debuted as a professional last year in February, and she fought about 6 times last year, which might explain why she didn't fight as much this one.
She's only fought once this year, once so far, but there's still time left to squeeze in another fight en route to what could be a Jennifer Miranda fight. Jennifer Miranda, who already fought 2 times this year, this upcoming fight in October will be the 3rd. Jennifer saw action in January, then again in July. Now she's set to return to action in October.
An interesting character, Spain's own Jennifer Miranda, who toggles between boxing and movies, as she has been in 1 or 2 films over there in her native Spain.
Names that stand out on her CV: she has a quality win, a points decision win, over Jorgelina Guanini back there in December of 2021.
Been seeing her name gradually climb up those ranks over the years. Here and now, she's on the cusp of becoming a full-fledged world champion. All she's got to do is win this interim title, and I feel like she's going to. When she does, she will either be elevated to full champion or be afforded an opportunity to fight for the vacant title. It could happen either way.
Though either way it happens, it looks like she's very much on a collision course with the Dominican Republic's own Vivian Rodriguez. Vivian, who is 19 years younger than Jennifer Miranda. Jennifer's 38, where Vivian is 19.
Something you want to think about if and when that fight happens. That time is very much on Vivian Rodriguez's side.
So will Jennifer Miranda have home field advantage on hers if and when they fight, because she might need it?
She'll have it next month when she faces Teresa Almengor.
And I think she's going to win that fight. On the face of it, I think next month she'll win a points decision. It's after that where things get interesting, because I reiterate, the next WBA featherweight champion may be decided between Jennifer Miranda and Vivian Rodriguez. In men's junior middleweight news, per veteran boxing scribe Fernando Sabatini, I am informed that a fight between Israel Madrimov and Sergey Bohachuk is being negotiated for December 21st in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for the Fury vs. Usyk 2 undercard. But the Ukrainian could have a rematch with Virgil Ortiz in February.
If what we're talking about is an either-or situation, that either Sergey faces Israel in December or Virgil in February, who says that Virgil wants a rematch? He certainly doesn't need one. He made off like a bandit. He's WBC interim champion now.
He's in line to challenge Sebastian Fundora so long as Sebastian stays WBC champion. And he might. I don't see why the Virgil side of things would want to afford Sergey a rematch, especially given how they looked. What Virgil experienced, he was dropped 2 times. Many people, myself included, feel that he's lucky. He's fortunate to still be an unbeaten fighter. So I don't know that a Ortiz versus Bohachuk rematch is at all realistic.
To me, it isn't.
For that reason, Sergey Bohachuk and Tom Loeffler, who promotes him, who manages him, should operate on that assumption that they're not going to get Virgil in the ring again, but they can fight Israel as part of a very big show, likely for very good money.
2 fighters that are best described as high-risk, low-reward fighters for everybody else.
Who's really in a hurry to fight Sergey Bohachuk after what he's displayed and what he has been displaying? Who's really in a hurry to fight former champion Israel Madrimov? These are 2 of the dark horses in the junior middleweight division that don't have the same promotional push that some others have behind them, but they're skilled fighters, quality operators, the both of them, and I would relish the opportunity to see them face each other so the winner can thereby advance in their career.
Madrimov.
I feel like Israel Madrimov punches slightly harder than Sergey Bohachuk. I want to say that in spite of Madrimov not having as many rounds in the bank, as many fights, or as many knockouts as Sergey Bohachuk, in terms of single punching power, I feel like Madrimov punches slightly harder than Sergey does. Sergey has to pile on the damage. Accumulation.
It's a cumulative damage when he stops a guy. It's not single punching power, concussive punching power per se. It's the work rate. It's his activity. So where the edge in power, slight edge in power, might go to Israel Madrimov, in terms of work rate, by and large, Sergey is a busier puncher, much busier within a round than Israel is.
Madrimov.
In terms of mechanics, I give that edge to Israel Madrimov. I think he's a more nuanced fighter than Sergey Bohachuk. Sergey's approach is a straightforward approach. He's a pressure fighter. You can see that almost immediately. He's a come-forward guy, stepping into his jab, bringing other punches over to string together combinations once he's within range.
He's a volume guy, he's a work rate guy, he's a pressure guy, whereas Israel can be a bit more reserved. He likes to let his hands go too, but at the right time.
He's lighter on his feet than Sergey Bohachuk. On his toes, doing that pendulum step, that Soviet pendulum step, it gives him an element of surprise because you don't always know when he's going to explode, when he's going to jump in, and if you try to counter him, he can always bounce out.
Step out.
Whereas Sergey, primarily, within a round, in a fight, he's coming forward. He's marching forward. as pressure fighters often do.
Sergey's a pressure guy.
Israel actually has the right style for a pressure style fighter. A guy who's going to try to stand in front of him.
He does.
Walk him down.
Throw combinations.
Israel has the right style for the job. Where it's interesting is that Sergey is more experienced in the paid ranks than Israel is. He's got a lot more fights, a lot more rounds in the bank, which could result in better cardio.
A more developed engine than Israel Madrimov, who just has 12 professional fights to Sergey's 26.
More than 2 times the fights, and you know how he fights. You know that he can keep the pressure on, keep up that pace well into the later rounds. He can push Israel, that even though Israel has the right style for the job,
Physically, in terms of physicality, this could be rough because this guy, he's not going to leave you alone. You have to get him off of you.
Israel's fight with Terence Crawford was more of a chess match than a bar room brawl. That was a tense battle.
Where this would be an action fight, an all-action shootout, because if you don't push the pace, Sergey will.
That's where the area of opportunity for Israel lies. That Sergey's going to press the issue. He's going to come forward stepping into his jab, so you can use that against him to catch him in between the punches and counter him. Counter him hard. And because I think Israel is a slightly, ever so slightly bigger puncher than Sergey Bohachuk, he can rattle his cage. He can do some damage. Remember, Brian Mendoza caught him with an uppercut he didn't see while he was coming forward, and that rattled Sergey's cage. So if Brian can do it, Israel can do it.
Do it.
This could be a very interesting fight and appealing to the eye. Slight edge to Israel Madrimov due to the fighter's styles, and styles, as they say, they do make fights. I think Israel has the right style for this assignment, but that doesn't make it easy.
Sergey is persistent and a very hard man to discourage, not to be underestimated.
If you don't get his respect, you're not going to be able to keep him off you. And if you can't keep him off you, he might overwhelm you with his volume, with his combinations, his activity, round after round. We know he's got an engine.
But I give a slight edge, an ever so slight edge to Israel Madrimov, that he can walk him into something hard.
It's supposed to go down on the undercard of Fury versus Usyk 2. Rumor has it they also want to do the Chang versus Bakoli fight on that undercard. It's already shaping up to be one of the better cards of this year.
We'll see if that's how it breaks down. Madrimov versus Bohachuk, Zhang versus Bakoli.
Sounds like a hell of a night. Madrimov versus Bohachuk makes 4. A hell of a fight.
Hope they make it.
In men's heavyweight news ahead of their showdown later on this month, Daniel Dubois fighting fit for Anthony Joshua after emerging from a dark time. They've both faced dark times, both Daniel and Anthony. When Daniel lost to Joe Joyce, when Anthony lost to Andy Ruiz.
When they both lost to Usyk.
And they have both rebounded in a big way, so that when Daniel emerges from his dressing room and enters a packed Wembley Stadium to defend his IBF title against the 2-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua later on this month, Dubois' journey from the depths of despair will be complete. It was dark for sure, he told Queensbury. It's just life, I guess. Life is up and down, and there are experiences in life that you have to have.
You have to learn.
But there is no experience that Daniel Dubois has had thus far that Anthony Joshua hasn't already had. Where Daniel's defending his newly obtained IBF title, Anthony Joshua's racked up several title defenses against several top contenders. Where Daniel Dubois has learned to rebuild himself and rebound off a loss, Anthony's done that more than once. The difference being that the expectations for Anthony were a lot higher than the expectations for Daniel, so that when Anthony does it, it's actually a lot harder because people are harder on you.
There are more critics.
I mean what I'm saying when I say out of the darkness and into the light, but it's got a whole different meaning behind it. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but that's what this fight is all about. Redemption, part of my redemption, coming from where I was to where I am now, on the rise and reaching my fullest potential. I started young. I've been at it since my dad got me in at about the age of 7. From then until now, it's been a long road. There's been good experiences and bad ones, good memories, and I feel like I'm coming to the pinnacle of it all now.
I feel both fighters are in a good place mentally. They're in good headspace because they have momentum.
Daniel's 2 wins over unbeaten Jarrell Miller, unbeaten Felipe Hrgovic, Anthony Joshua's 4 victories
Over Jermaine Franklin, Robert Helenius, Otto Wallin, more recently Francis Ngannou.
They both have that going into this fight. First off, he's giving me time, Dubois said. He's warning me, isn't he? If you're gonna do something, just do it. Whatever. It's just mind games and trickery. I'm ready to fight. I'm sick of all these questions now. I want to get in the ring and fight. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was just going with it. Whatever. Words were exchanged. It didn't mean anything to me. Disrespect is not the right word, is it? Is there respect in that ring? There's no respect in the ring, and at the end of the day, this is a fight. If you want respect, go and become a lawyer or a doctor or something, because this is the fight game. I'm 100% ready to just go out there and fight right now. It's getting closer, and I'm on the home run.
There is no edge that I can give Daniel that I cannot also give Anthony Joshua. They're peas in a pod with what separates them being experience. Anthony is a lot more experienced.
This is the biggest stage that Daniel will have ever fought on, whereas for Anthony, he's already fought on several big stages in what were high-level, high-stakes fights. There is pressure that I think Anthony is more accustomed to dealing with than Daniel.
When he lost to Andy Ruiz and people were writing him off almost immediately, there was a lot of pressure in that fight that I don't think Daniel had after he lost to Joe Joyce.
I feel like it was a lot more difficult for Anthony to rebound off the Ruiz loss than it was for Daniel to rebound off the Joe Joyce loss. I do, because Anthony was already established. He had already been a champion before. The biggest draw in British boxing and one of the biggest draws in all of boxing. So that when you lose a fight like that in a big upset, that many more people see it, and that many more people are criticizing you for it. That if Daniel has a competitive edge for rebuilding himself, well, so does Anthony.
Oh, Daniel changed things up in the corner. He's being trained by Don Charles. So did Anthony. He's being trained by Ben Davison.
That there is no edge that I can give Daniel that I cannot also give Anthony Joshua. In terms of the styles, well, you know what I think. I think Daniel wants to go home early. I think he's going to shoot out of his corner like a bat out of hell, looking for an early knockout, and that's going to be to his detriment. Anthony's more poised, more relaxed, and more fluid. He's going to move around, punish him with the jab because Daniel doesn't move his head.
Daniel wants to fight where Anthony's going to box, move and punch, use the jab, set up the right. You don't have to knock him out right away.
You don't have to commit to your power shots right away, where I suspect Daniel will. Just like he did in the Jarrell Miller fight, just like he did in the Felipe Hrgovic fight. What worked for him in those fights, he's going to try to duplicate that success in this one.
But this time it's against a bigger puncher and a more well-schooled, fluid boxer.
No one should look past Daniel Dubois. Anthony Joshua, least of all. Is he a threat? Yes, he is. But I think he's a threat that Anthony can handle. And even if he's in a good headspace right now and he's riding high, so is Anthony.
Could he hurt Anthony? Of course he could. Could he knock him out? Of course, but the same is true in reverse.
So what tips the scales for me is experience. Anthony is just more experienced and more adaptable.
He'll weather the early onslaught and take Daniel out mid to late.